Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again, formally, thank you all for joining us. I hope you are enjoying the online learning experience so far in this unit. It's new to some of you or all of you, and hopefully you get accustomed to it or familiarize yourself with the online learning approach or online pedagogy. Without further delay, we'll go straight into our presentations for this morning. And we'll start off with the first presenter, representing group number 1, Tanisha. Please, Tanisha, go ahead.
Hello? Can everyone hear me? Okay, good morning, everyone. So group 1, our question was, what distinguishes complementary concepts from parallel concepts as described by Buzan and Hansan? According to Buzan and Hansan, after the Cold War, security became a concept which generated and hence could unify debates across perspectives previously opposed. Buzan has that concept as frameworks or points of view to support view security for a better understanding. They concept, parallel concepts, and opposition concepts. The answer for illustration shown will be discussed based on our questions. Complementary concepts and parallel concepts are two different types of relationships between ideas as described by Buzan and Hansan in their work on mind mapping and concept mapping. To begin, complementary concepts, these concepts point to a more specific and narrow set of questions, that is deterrence, strategy, containment. Being complementary and more complete. This means that concepts such as deterrence, meaning the prevention of something, strategy, meaning the art of planning or directing, and containment, meaning the act of keeping something harmful under control or the act of prevention expansion, which give extra features to what security is and how this security is used as a concept. Complementary concepts like strategy, deterrence, enhance or complete each other, meaning to say they are interdependent and work together to provide a fuller understanding of a topic or issue, which in this is the security. Whereas parallel depth or identity, more general and linking to larger literature. This means that concepts such as power, meaning the ability or capacity to do something, sovereignty, meaning the authority of state to govern its foreigners, and identity, meaning the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. Similar or to what security is and how security is used. Concept. Parallel concepts like power and sovereignty are independent of each other but share similarities run along each other. They may be simultaneously side by side, but don't necessarily rely on each other for completion or understanding. Now, why is it important for us to understand these concepts? It is important because it provides the advantage of allowing us to conduct structured conceptual analysis, particularly of those features that do not explicitly link over the concept of security in international security studies. Buzan and Hansen 2000. Between complementary concepts and parallel concepts lies in the relationship. Complementary concepts work together to enhance understanding, while parallel concepts exist independently but share similarities. For further discussions, here is the third concept for your per usual. Oppositional concepts work together, work through security, but argue that it should be by being oppositional challenges to security. Thank you, and that's all for Google.
Thank you, Tanisha and Group 1 for sharing with us your answer to the question. Unfortunately, there was this disturbance, but hopefully during the discussion forum, people can ask more questions and Tanisha can respond accordingly. Okay, we now move on to our second presenter representing Group 2, Ms. Salot. Please go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, on behalf of Group 2, I'll be giving our answers to, not answers, but answering question 2. So before I give my answer, I just have to read the question again. So the question reads, what is your understanding of the term people-centered security and why was it used in the PNG National Security Policy? From our understanding, people-centered security simply means ensuring the security and safety of all men, women, and children. As stated in the 2013 National Security Policy, Papua New Guinea recognized the importance of prioritizing security of its people. And also not its people, also people who are not Papua New Guineans. This represents a shift from state-centric to people-centered security. What matters most is the people because of this approach focus and treats people as an important security parameter. According to Persuade 2016, human or people-centered security focus on protecting human life, individuals, communities, vulnerable groups, minorities, refugees, and etc. Some daily examples of people-centered security issues in PNG would be pickpocketing, robbery, gender-based violence, urban crime, and tribal fighting. Moreover, focusing solely on state security has often resulted in internal conflicts and weakened security for citizens. Fragile state-centered regimes also create security concerns domestically and internationally. The UNDP report of 1994 identifies two categories of human security. One is freedom from fear, and the other one is freedom from want. Freedom from fear means that no individual should be afraid of their own government or afraid of living in their own country. Freedom from want means every individual should have access to basic necessities and services. The PNG National Security Policy aims to incorporate approaches that alleviate poverty, cater to the needs of its people, and foster a conducive environment for people-centered state security. According to Persuade 2016, stated that human security can help in expanding the range of actors and expands the empowerment of people as important dimension of self-sustenance, which adds to state security. Thank you, and that's all.
Okay, thank you, Group 2, for your presentation on people-centered security. And we heard from Group 1, they talked about the difference between complementary concepts and parallel concepts. So now we will move on to Group number 3, and Ms. Manoa is the representative. So Paige, please go ahead. Once again, any questions or comments for Group 1, please share in the discussion forum for this week.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Yagiora, and good morning all. I will be representing Group 3. Our question is, according to Lucky, as cited by Yualup Momi, what distinguishes military security from internal security? Yualup Momi mentioned in his analysis titled System Perspective that according to Lucky, military security is distinctive from internal security because the former focuses on minimizing or neutralizing any attempt or potential threats from outside a nation through armed forces. For instance, quote, a potential invasion by Indonesian armed forces, unquote, aimed at destroying Papua New Guinea. It deals with enemy forces outside the country who have a clear intent on destruction towards the subject country. Internal security deals with subversive elements that aim to destroy statehood within the sovereign framework of the state. Some examples of this kind of threat include civil war, tribal or ethnic war, terrorism, or transnational crimes, to name a few. This deals more with its citizens threatening the freedom of the country's statehood, such as conflicts among themselves. For instance, as Mr. Yagiora and some of you have mentioned already, the recent trouble fights in Enga. This threatens the state's ability to progress in development, especially in Enga province, although looting that affected big businesses such as City Pharmacy Limited or CPL, and in doing so might have ended the prospect of getting more investors into our country. This were caused by our citizens rather than outside agents, which then threatened to destroy the control the state has over development in the country. Thank you for listening. That's all for my group.
Okay, thank you, Paige and Group 3. It's interesting in PNG, we have all these scholars, they try to define and separate all these different types of security, but then in PNG, it's for us, for internal security matters, you see the defense force being involved in that. And it's supposed to be the police force who are the domestic internal law enforcement agents. So the military should be in charge of our external defense, protecting our country from outside invaders or outsiders trying to cross our sovereign territory and arm us or destroy us or do something. So it's interesting. I hope you are observing what's happening in our country and you take note of the different security dynamics, internal, military, societal, all this as we continue on with our discussion. Okay, thank you, Group 1, 2, and 3. Let's move on to Group 4. Group 4, represented by Talita.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'll be representing 4, and our question reads, what explanation does Waluk Momi provide for the successive government's failure to implement the national security policy and the defense white paper? So firstly, the national security as defined in the National Security Policy 2013 states that it is the protection of our citizens, national sovereignty, democratic rights, freedoms and values, strategic assets and resources, and the well-being and prosperity of our nation and our people. The Defense White Paper was developed to counter the national security policy level 1 threats that require immediate attention. So the national security policy and the defense white paper was initiated by the O'Neill government in 2013 to address the country's external and internal security issues. So Waluk Momi proposes 4 reasons as to why the successive governments have failed to implement the NSP and DWP. So firstly, after the launching of the National Security Policy and the Defense White Paper in 2013, there has been less investment in implementing these policies because political agents at the national level would rather put more investment in economic and social sectors such as health, education, infrastructure, and the extractive sector in which the government views as a means of maximizing political capital, or in other words, to maximize their own gains. Secondly, the delay in the enactment of the Independent Commission Against Corruption, or ICAC, the bill. Well, look, Momi suggests that the government's failure to pass this bill in Parliament was a contributing factor to the ineffectiveness of PNG's national security system. This is because the bill was promised to be the answer to the problem of corruption in the system that has affected national security. The third reason is the ineffectiveness of the intelligence community in providing timely and quality advice to the National Security Council and the National Executive Council. That was the result of the reduction of capacity and capability, as well as the less funding given to the national intelligence organizations. The NIO is not able to carry out its mandated functional responsibilities. And lastly, national security was not an important agenda of the government, as it had not been considered as an integral part of other policies and plans that needed immediate attention. So the Somare government's Vision 2050 was the first major framework to involve the national security system. For example, the national security is now one of the 7 pillars of the Vision 2050. Therefore, PNG is signing defense and security pacts with multilateral partners such as Australia and the United States in order to develop and strengthen PNG's national security through empowering and equipping the different security sectors. So in conclusion, according to Hualupomi 2023, page 8, it appears that politicians prioritize personal gain over national security interests, potentially neglecting the opportunity to enhance both security measures and their own political standing. This focus on self-interest may explain the abundance of proposed national security policies compared to actual implementation. So by failing to capitalize on the potential for dual benefits, increasing national security while gaining political support, politicians may be inadvertently hindering progress in safeguarding the country. So the lack of investment in key areas, despite the strategic policies being in place, such as the National Security Policy and the Defense White Paper, can be described as a glaring oversight. It's like having a fancy blueprint for a house, but forgetting to lay the foundation. Not the smartest move for a strong and secure structure. And that's our response to the question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Talita and Group 4. And I like the talk picture that you used about the house. All right, so yeah, one important thing that we need to note, and it was presented in Parliament by Gerrit Jufa, the governor for Oro. He talked about, was it last week or the week before? And also last year he made the same comment. He said, NIO after independence, we started off with 150 intelligence officers. And now he said there are 20 or so. So the number has decreased, and over the years we have not funded the National Intelligence Organization. And in our study of security, you'll see that intelligence organizations are very important. They provide intelligence or information to the government to inform them about security issues, security threats, and the government makes decisions based on the advice from the intelligence from various intelligence organizations. So not only NIO, but police intelligence, defense, and as well as customs. PNG Customs, they have the intelligence division. All right, thank you, Group 4. Let's move on to Group 5. Bridget, our representative from Group 5.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Good morning, everyone. I'll be representing Group 5 to share with you all what we discussed as a group. Question 5 reads, Which threats, as outlined by Williams in the 6 clusters, are featured in the PNG National Security Policy? Before we get to the answer, let us first identify Williams' 6 clusters before grasping the features outlined in PNG's National Security Policy. According to a report by the UN High Level, as mentioned by Williams 2008, the 6 clusters of threat were identified exercising the world's government, economic and social threats, including poverty, infectious disease, and environmental degradation, interstate conflict, internal conflict, including civil war, genocide, and other large-scale atrocities, nuclear, radiological, chemical, and biological warfare, weapons, terrorism, and transnational organized crime. With that in mind, we now ask the question, what is national security policy? National security policy is a framework that serves to safeguard the state's interests, protect its citizens, and maintain stability in an increasingly complex and interconnected world. The PNG National Security Policy was launched in the year 2013. The policy was developed in strong alignment with the PNG's constitution and the 4th pillar of the PNG Vision 2050. The policy provides a strategic framework for security oversight, coordination, and alignment for all key security aspects of Papua New Guinea. The policy covers a wide range of issues such as law and order, corruption, human rights, border control, natural disasters, arms trafficking, illegal poaching, drugs, cybercrime, and regional cooperation as indicated in the PNG NSP chapters 1 to 7. Also, as stated in the National Security Policy, for the government to adequately respond to each security threat, each threat was ranked and categorized into 2 levels. Level 1 threats are threats that are most likely to occur. They can cause the most damage when they occur and require immediate and urgent attention. Whereas level 2 threats are those that are not urgent and might not require immediate and urgent response, or if they do occur, the threat level is not high in terms of damages done. So to answer our question, which threats, as outlined by Williams in the 6 clusters, are featured in the PNG National Security Policy? We can say that it is evident that the PNG National Security Policy addresses most of the threats identified by Williams in the 6 clusters, except for war between states and nuclear, radiological, chemical, and biological weapons. Hence, these threats may be less relevant for PNG because it is a developing country compared to the other developed countries that go to war with each other and face these threats from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget and Group 5. If you have any questions for Bridget or Talita, Paige, Caitlin, or Tanisha, then you can share in our forum. Or if you want to further the discussion, you can also share in our forum for this week. So we'll move on to our second last presenter, Victoria, representing Group 6.
Thank you, Mr. So, good morning, everyone, once again. I will begin my group presentation. And our question is, what was Hua Lukmomi's reasoning behind stating that the national security system had undergone minimal transformation since 1975? My group and I have tried to define transformation in this context, and I will be further using a comparative analysis to analyze and explain why Hua Lukmomi's reasoning as why our system has gone through minimal transformation. So according to Hua Lukmomi, analysis of Papua New Guinea's security system, transformation can be seen as having a security system that is compound of different proactive strategies that can adapt to the changing environment, or as he puts it, and I quote, read signals and respond to surprises from many different security conditions, end quote. So to further explain his reasoning as to why he stated PNG's security system has undergone very little transformation since 1975. Firstly, let's look at the security issue that as a nation are faced in the early times. So one of the biggest security controversies that goes down on PNG history is the Sandline crisis. So during that period, according to PNG Altitude, the Bougainville crisis and Sandline missionaries 2016, it further explains the crisis. So at that time, the landowners' grievance over the unequal distribution of wealth and large amount of environmental damage caused by the mining. So they were unhappy about it. So when Julius Trent tried to restore order in Bougainville, he failed on several attempts. So he engaged the Sandline missionaries. However, the mission had quite gone wrong, and that had ended up in a loss of thousands lost their life, and many properties and assets were damaged. So coming back to Waluk Momis, he further stated that because of that signing of contract between the our president at the time, Sir Julius Chen, and the Sandline missionaries, they believed that there would be a military coup against the state. And so they reduced the number of our PNGDF from 5,000 to 2,000. However, when they reduced the number of DF in the nation, the aftermath was that there were some civic duties of the DF that was not effective, like the surveillance of the land and maritime in our country. So that is one security issue that we can see and how our government handled it at the time. Another one is the recent COVID-19 crisis. So when the COVID-19 crisis started in Huang, we knew about it, but we did nothing until it came to our shores. And then we were shocked and we started coming up with strategies how to go about solving the issue. So in conclusion, when comparing these two security issues that we have faced in the past and in these recent times, we can see it shows a lack of government proactive strategies to solve security threats internally and externally. And that is the underlying reason why our security system, PNG's security system, has gone through very little transformation since 1975, because we can still see this link of how we have handled issues in the past and today. And the security system is not as effective because it still has a lot of loops that needs to be fixed. So that is why, that is the reason behind Waluk Momi stating that our security system has gone through many more transformations since independence. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Victoria and Group 6. US Papua New Guineans, are you worried that our security is weak? The security system and the old security mechanism is weak. So we are, it's very concerning. So hopefully all of you people go out there and try to make a positive change. Just to add on to what Victoria said about the Sandline crisis and the Sandline mercenaries who came to PNG. If you there's a book in the library by Gingell and Wesley called Making Australian Foreign Policy. So if you look at that book, it talks about how the Australian intelligence they were able to send an agent to Wewak to Moyam Barracks to monitor what was happening there, and they somehow got satellite footage of the Sandline mercenaries coming out, moving around, training defense personnel on Moyam Barracks to go to Bougainville. And they were able to send all these pictures and information direct to John Howard and Alexander Downer in Canberra, where they were able to make Sinch and then influenced Julius Chen and his government. So you can see that PNG since independence, our not only on the ground but in the air, we're not protecting our airspace as well as territorial seas. So that's an example of us having a weak security system. Okay, so our final presenter representing Group 7, Tania, please. Sorry for the delay. Go ahead.
Mr. Aguirre, sorry, Rosa Sarman will be representing our group using my laptop.
All right, that's fine. Please, Rosa, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Yagira, and good morning, everyone. So the question that was assigned to Group 7 is, what ongoing debates and unresolved issues does Hampson identify in the study of human security? In the study, before we proceed on to discussing the ongoing issues and unresolved issues that Hampson identified, let's look at the key term in the question, which is human security. Human security refers to the protection of individuals and communities from various threats beyond just military security. It encompasses a broader range of concerns related to well-being, dignity, and freedom from harm. The focus of human security emphasizes the security of people rather than states or territories. It recognizes that security threats can arise from poverty, disease, environmental degradation, and social inequality. There are three key aspects of human security. One, individual-centered. Human security places the individual at the center, considering their basic needs, rights, and vulnerabilities. Two, multidimensional. It addresses various dimensions of security, including economic, health, environmental, and personal safety. Three, context-specific. Human security varies based on cultural, social, and geographical context. For instance, ensuring access to clean water, health care, education, and protection from violence are all aspects of human security. Now, to answer the question, we have recognized 7 ongoing issues and unresolved issues that Hampson identified. 1, impacts of globalization. According to Hampson, globalization is not only intensifying trades and economic connections, but also accelerating the pace of economic and social change. The debate regarding the impact of globalization on human security has led enthusiasts on to arguing that globalization can raise wealth incomes and contribute to the spread of wealth, while critics in this debate argue that it widens income inequalities and can lead to social and political consequences such as civil unrest. Number 2, economic inequalities. The widening income gap between the wealth, richest, and poorest countries, as well as within countries, raises concern about its implications for human security, particularly in terms of potential for violence and civil strife. Number 3, regional disparities. Regional disparities in armed conflict and economic development highlight unresolved issues in human security, particularly in regions such as Sub-Saharan Africa and predominantly Muslim countries. Number 4, globalization and public health. Impacts of globalization on public health, particularly in terms of access to healthcare and the spread of epidemic diseases such as AIDS, raises unresolved issues regarding the role of the global economy and structural adjustment policies in shaping health outcomes. Number 5, ethical considerations. There are ongoing debates about the ethical implications of using force for human security objectives, particularly in cases of humanitarian intervention, and how evolving human security norms challenge traditional notions of just war and acceptable collateral damage. Number 6, role of democracy and peace building. There are discussions about the role of democratization, civil society development, and peace building in ensuring human security, with questions about the adequacy of liberal democracy and economic liberalization alone to address underlying vulnerabilities and insecurities. Number 7, national and regional perspectives. Now, differences in national and regional perspectives on human security, as well as divergent assessments of threats and policy responses, highlights ongoing debates about the universality versus contextuality of human security concepts. These debates and unresolved issues underscore the complexity of the human security agenda and the need for interdisciplinary approaches that consider economic, social, political, and ethical dimensions of security. Nonetheless, prevention is at the core of human security. It addresses root causes, identifies emerging risks, and emphasizes immediate action. Building resilience, enhancing social cohesion, and respecting human rights are essential components. To conclude, human security shifts the focus from traditional state-centric security to holistic approach centered on the well-being and empowerment of individuals and communities. Thank you, and that's our response to question 7.
Okay, thank you, Rosa and Group 7, for sharing with us your answer to your assigned question. So I think we've listened to all the representatives from the 7 different groups, and I would like to thank all of you again for taking your time to share with us your answers to the respective questions. And I hope your peers took note of what you've said, and if you have any questions or comments, you can share in our discussion forum for this week. And also, I hope all of you took home the main message for this last 2 weeks, and you may I don't know whether or not you understood the difference between the two types of security issues at the moment. So like I've said last week, we have state-centric security, and that is different from human security. So when you graduate and go out, if you are a practicing journalist in the mainstream media, or a security analyst, or a policy officer in one of the government departments, or communication officer, then you can use this framework to understand things that are happening. So if you read the newspaper, or if you look at things that are unfolding in our country, then you can be able to say that, oh, okay, that's a state-centric security issue. Indonesia is trying to attack PNG and bomb Vanimo and take over Aitape and make it become the new capital for West Papua or something like that. That's a state-centric security issue. And then if you look at the increased trade of marijuana and us trying to transport more marijuana to New Zealand to supply all the druggies down there, then that's a, is it a state-centric or human security issue? When I leave that to you people to decide whether it's to do with human security or to do with the security of the state. So you can see the examples. The Cold War is a state-centric security issue. It involves state to state, one state trying to attack another state by building up their nuclear arsenal. And human security is different. It talks about terrorism, economic security, the personal security of human beings, you being able to travel to the town without getting attacked or stabbed by a screwdriver along the way as you walk up near Tusbab or Bates Oval or something like that. So once you graduate and go, these are two important distinctions that you should note. So when you're in the workforce or doing your own thing, then you understand or you differentiate human security from state-centric security. And you'll notice that for Papua New Guinea, we are more focused on human security because we do not have any external threats, but we will use our military to counter or defend our country or sovereign territory. So for us as a developing country, and many developing countries around the world, whether in the Latin American region or Africa or the Asia Pacific, you'll see that many developing countries, their main focus is on human security and the different dimensions of human security, personal security, cultural security, societal. And also you have different authors or different scholars defining security differently. All right, so I hope all of you know this important distinction in the field of security studies. All right, then that's all. We'll stop here. I think Doctor is on his way to the office, so we'll give him some time. So I'm going to stop the recording now.